right. According to what I'm looking at, it says we are live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Diane Rose Solomon. I am the founder of Animal Magic Films. And let's put this little banner up. And thank you for joining us for our fourth interview in the Science and Magic of the Human-Animal Bond interview series. We will be exploring many of the ways that animals help people and people help animals, because it is a both and conversation. So we all benefit from this bond. Please welcome my guest, Ruth Hegarty. Welcome, Ruth. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me, Diane.
It is so nice to see you.
You too.
Ruth is a dog trainer. We're going to learn a lot more about what that means and what kind of special cool stuff that she does today. And we met through this really cool business group called Working with Dogs. So big shout out to Jane and Nick, because we're all meeting some really cool people. And here's a little bit about Ruth from her official bio. Ruth Hegarty is the founder and owner of Creature Good Dog Training, specializing in positively training adopted dogs. We're going to talk more about that, so that they and their new families live happily ever after. Ruth is a certified dog trainer with a master's in education. She also holds certifications in life coaching and dog bite safety, and is a fear-free shelters graduate. So we're going to want to learn all about what this means. And so I have a lot of questions, but let's get started with what inspired you to start your business?
So I started my business officially about 1.5 years ago, after graduating from Victoria Stilwell Academy and for positive dog training. And I got into dog training because I adopted my own dog. First dog I ever had, didn't grow up with dogs, adopted an adult rescue dog.
Right.
And he was, I'm going to use the word maniac, because he had been feral, which I didn't know what that meant then. And he was about 50 pounds, came into my house like a wrecking ball, as the song says, and pooped everywhere, jumped on me. He would wrestle me to the ground for food if I had food in my hand. He would bite me. He would growl. We were all afraid of him. And I didn't know what to do. And I thought about returning him, but I didn't want to return him because I said, oh, well, he bit me. And if I say he bit me, he'll get euthanized. And I don't know what to do. And I also love him and I don't know what to do. So I took him to some training classes and I talked to different trainers, and I got a lot of advice along the lines of, you need to be dominant, you need to be the alpha, you need to, knee him in the side when he does this and jerk on his collar when he does that. And I said, okay. And I did all those things. I even had someone tell me once that I had to simulate mounting my dog in order to show him that I was the alpha. No lie. That's sort of the one thing I never tried.
I'm happy to hear this.
But legit, someone, that's how you're going to show him you're the alpha. And I'm like, yeah, we're mother and son, so I don't think that's going to work. But then after doing that, and I did that for a year, I went from trainer to trainer. I spent thousands of dollars. He was not getting better. He was getting worse. And I felt like a terrible person. I'm like, I love this dog, but yet, he reacted to another dog and I need him in the side. Right. So all along I was doing research, trying to build a better mousetrap for us. And then I discovered positive training, which is, the opposite of traditional training, which is what I had been doing, the advice I had been getting, which is, still the more prevalent school of thought around animal training. And positive training is based on all the science that's been done in the past 20, 30 years on how dogs think, how dogs learn, the kinds of intelligence they have. And I said, well, this sounds a little bit more up my alley, And I tried a few things, watched some YouTube videos, and right away things started to change for Jake and I. Jake's my dog. And I felt good about it. And we both had a smile back on our face, and it actually worked for him. He actually became less reactive to other dogs and all of this kind of stuff. And, I had one of those aha moments where I'm like, how do people not know about this? How was this not the first advice that I got when I went to a trainer? Like, how did that happen? How did I have to spend a year, abusing my dog?
Yeah.
And then find it. So I went on a little bit of a crusade and I said, well, I took a few classes and then I dove into the whole program to become a certified trainer through Victoria Stilwell. starting out just thinking I would do it for my dog.
Right.
But as time went along and I was having to get volunteer dogs to do some of the activities and working with a mentor and just being exposed to more people and more dogs who also didn't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, this is my life now. Right? This is my life now. So then I started my business and it's been very well received. People are grateful to have a positive trainer. When I started my business, I was the only certified positive trainer through my school in more than 100-mile radius.
Wow. Wow. And what part of the country do you live in?
I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So a pretty populated area that you would think. Now, I'm not saying there weren't other positive trainers because there are other schools,
Yeah.
but if each one of those had the same statistic,
There
maybe there
weren't,
were
there
3 or
weren't that
4 of
many.
us in 100. So it was, that shows you we're growing in numbers and in popularity in the sense of people becoming more aware.
It's like it's time to put behind us those days of rolling up the newspaper,
It's great. And
like,
people still do that, and even some shelters still do that. Even some shelters have trainers working for them. I used to volunteer for a shelter that was using a trainer that would put electric collars and things on dogs. And I was like, you can't do that. Or at least I can't stay with you if you do that. So it's still pretty
and I have a
cool.
better way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes people don't want to change. People like traditional training because, and that's what we call it traditional. That's the prong collars, the electric collars, all of that kind of stuff, the rolled up newspapers. It's a quick result, right? Put an electronic collar on a dog and you buzz him every time he does something you don't like, he's going to stop doing that thing.
Right.
But you're only suppressing his behavior, right? When you're not looking, he's going to do it. He still wants to do it. So you're not really changing anything. You're just punishing him for doing the thing. And in positive training, we teach the dog to do something else. Well, I don't want you to jump up on the table, but if you sit, I will give you a treat.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it changes your dog's emotional state, changes how they understand the expectations that you have for them. So it's much nicer. It's permanent change. It's like a long-term behavior change versus I'll smack you if you do that.
So my next question, you pretty much just answered, which is, how does this help the animals? But let's just talk for another second about that. Yeah.
So it helps the animals and the people. It's positive training and any kind of positive training will deepen your relationship. It will deepen your bond with your animal for a couple of reasons. One, you're not creating fear and anxiety in your animal because you're not, shocking them or doing those kind of things to them. So they're not having this adrenaline all the time thinking, oh, something's going to happen. So that's one thing right off the bat, that they feel better about themselves. Dogs are able to feel a sense of accomplishment so that when you're doing something together, and positive training is designed to feel like a game to your dog and to you. So you're teaching them, they're accomplishing things, they're feeling good about themselves, they're getting treats, you're feeling good about them and about yourself because you showed them how to give a high five or something. And it's like it's quality time, right? Quality time together. You make eye contact while you're doing it. One of the things that we do is to teach a dog what we call a check-in, so that he'll look to you or she'll look to you, and so that you're making more eye contact. You're releasing positive endorphins for both of you, and you're getting to know each other better too. You get to see your dog's, the things that may make her a little bit fearful or the things that make her more excited. You'll know her favorite treats. You'll know all of those kind of things. And that's going to, it sort of snowballs. Better behavior, more fun together, longer walks because now they're not pulling you down the street. All of that kind of stuff, just it builds and builds on itself.
So brilliant. And one of my big questions is always, how does what you do make the world a more compassionate place? And just everything that you're telling me is about being compassionate. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I tell my clients, every single client, I'm sure there's no one I haven't said this to, that 50% of dog training is time and patience, right? It's not about you snap your fingers and your dog comes running. It's about getting you and your dog into a place between you where when you call his name, he wants to come running.
Right.
So, and you do that by making it fun and making yourself something that your dog is, he hears his name and he's like, oh, mommy's calling me, right? Because he's going to get an awesome treat or he's going to get a belly rub, that kind of thing. So you're using your dog's own motivators and his intelligence and your patience and your ability to have self-control and not just get frustrated if you didn't come the first time, so that there's a much larger sense of peace around training.
Mm-hmm.
Frustration on both ends doesn't come up the same way, and you get to have more fun together. You're not using punishment, you're using praise and rewards. It's a lot like the Montessori school system, right? Where you teach your dog that, you know, these behaviors are your job, these treats are your rewards or your pay. And dogs like to understand your expectations.
Yeah.
So they have more peace of mind. You have more peace of mind. It's a much more loving way to teach, in the way that you might teach a small child, you know, where you're going to have patience and sort of hold back on getting frustrated. And you don't get as frustrated when you understand that your dog is able to think and learn, so that if you say come and your dog stands there and looks at you for 5 seconds before they come, that just means your dog's thinking, well, she called me. I would still like to play, but I like her. And I know she's going to give me a nice treat. I'm going to go. Right.
Right.
And your dog's entitled to have some amount of autonomy. You know, your dog's a sentient being. So having the patience and giving them that time makes life better for dogs. And it makes life better for you to not feel like you have to be the alpha or be dominant towards your dog. And I think, you know, you use the word compassion, which is sort of one of my, in my heart, sort of one of my brand pillars, you know, where partly because my name means compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you just try to put yourself in the situation of the other party, you know, whether you're dealing with a person or, in my case, most of the time dealing with dogs,
Mm-hmm.
you think, you know, is it hard to learn? Is this a hard thing I'm asking? So then I need to step up how much time or how much instruction or how much reward I'm
Right.
offering, you know?
What is the reaction from your clients who used to do it the traditional way and weren't getting results, or just had a bad relationship with their dog, to when they learn training from you with the positive training? What's their experience like?
A lot like what mine was. It was sort of that, why didn't anyone tell me this was available to me?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I have to go through all that time doing these negative things? Why is that the predominant information that I found? You know, they're frustrated. They feel
Yeah.
frustrated, you know, maybe even feel a little bit duped, feel like I did these things thinking I was doing the right thing for my dog. And now I'm learning that I've harmed my dog. And those kind of methods can harm your relationship with your dog,
Yeah.
you know? And you can recover from it. You know, one of the glorious things about dogs is that they're very forgiving people. You know, they're willing to look past. They don't hold grudges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I think about all the things I did to my dog, you know, if he'd been a child, they would have taken him from me and I would have gone to prison.
Right.
But yet, you know, he loves me with his whole heart and soul, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way about him.
Right.
And there are certain moments where I'll want him to do something and he'll hesitate.
Yeah.
And I think that's because of past situations.
Yeah.
But I respect that. Okay, well, I used to do this. Now I don't, but still,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
not stupid, you know. So people tend to feel terrible. They feel bad that they've done the wrong thing. And, you know, they just have to understand, you have to make peace. We've all
Right.
made mistakes in our lives. You have to
Right.
make peace within yourself and say, but I'm doing the right thing now. I never gave up on my dog. never gave up
cool.
on learning, you
That's
know?
key, to feel a sense of wow, because this happens in so many areas of our
Yeah.
lives where, it's sort of like I did the best I knew how
Yeah.
then. I know better now, so I can
Right.
do better now, right?
Right. Know better, do better, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. So there's probably a
and
lot of relief and gratitude on your clients' parts.
and a lot of them, fortunately, especially right now with COVID, a lot of them are first-time dog owners.
Right.
Everyone's adopting during COVID because why not? Everyone's doing it. It's in the news. I'm going to do it too.
Yeah.
So a lot of them haven't had an opportunity yet to do the wrong thing. And they'll get their dog. There's usually after the first 2 weeks, sometimes even within the first 2 weeks, there's this feeling of overwhelm because having a dog is a lot more work than sort of social media would have you believe.
Yeah.
And people panic and they get overwhelmed and think they made a mistake. You can almost count the days till this is going to happen.
All right.
And so a lot of people will call me and they'll say, well, I've had people say, well, my dog will do his potty and then he'll kick the ground, scratch the dirt. Is that normal? How do I make him stop doing that? I'm like, well, all dogs do that. That's
Yeah.
what dogs do. So there's a huge component, at least lately with a lot of the first time dog owners, of just saying, well, this is a normal dog behavior. This isn't, or it is, but it's not something that we allow them to do.
Right.
Because it's not in their interest or yours, that kind of thing.
And something you're talking about too, I remember because I saw Victoria Stilwell speak a year ago actually at a conference.
Awesome.
I just got lucky. She happened to be the speaker at the conference I was at. It was actually Pet Partners. And, she's talking about something that you mentioned a few times, that dogs have these natural behaviors that we want to honor. And, if we take our dog out for the walk, but we're only on this mission to get the dog, pottied so we can go somewhere, rather than giving the dog their time to sniff because that's their natural behavior,
Right.
And that really spoke to me. And I've been learning more about that lately too. And you've spoken to it a few times. It's like they're going to stop and think because they've got this natural or this learned behavior, and really to honor them, and who they are as dogs, as sentient beings,
Right. And you can work with it. Barking's one, especially now because everyone's working at home. They'll call in a trainer and say, well, my dog barks out the window at all the dogs that walk by. How do I make that stop? And I said, well, it's a dog. You don't make it stop. You reduce it to the point where it's acceptable. Right. So maybe you allow your dog to alert you with 2 barks instead of 40 barks that a dog is passing the house.
That's something you can do?
Yeah. You can teach your dog a quiet cue, right? So that you can teach your dog, sort of along the lines of, okay, thank you for letting me know a dog is passing. Your job is done. Please go lay down, right? So you can teach your dog that, your instinct to protect the house, much appreciated.
Right.
I'm on deck with understanding what's going on. Your job is done. Go lay down.
Right.
So by being quiet or teaching them, you can even teach them an alternate, like the mailman's coming instead of barking, or the mail carrier, instead of barking at the mail carrier, you come and get me. Those kind of things. I say to my dog when he barks, he'll bark at dogs that walk by. I'll say, oh, thank you. I appreciate your vigilance. I'm good. And he's like, all right.
I do that too. I don't think I'm as effective as you are, but I need to learn how to do that better. That's the one thing that I need to work on better.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you how to do it.
Okay.
Talk after.
Okay. So when I met you, I got excited about everything you were sharing. And by the way, one quick question before I ask you the next part. Do you still solely specialize in adopted adult dogs, or do you sort of work with all kinds of dogs? What's your...
So short answer, no, I do not. I work with all kinds of dogs because, my name sort of got out into my community, and some of the other aspects of my business, like I sort of pride myself on being easy to work with. Not a lot of hoops to jump through to get to see me kind of thing. And by hoops, I mean a lot of paperwork. Sometimes there's a lot of upfront paperwork that people,
right.
And everyone can do it their own way.
Right. So you basically work with all different types of dogs.
Yeah. So I've gotten to work with a lot of puppies, purebred breeder dogs, and also a lot of adult adopted dogs, infant adopted dogs. So yeah, because you train them all the same way. The adopted adults were my target just because it's what I experienced, and I know they're very vulnerable to surrender.
Yeah, true. So I meet you 6 months ago, however long it was, through WWD.
Yep.
And I get excited about what you do. And then I realize you're in Massachusetts. And then I find out, so I'm thinking, how could I possibly benefit, or could anybody else possibly? But then I find out that you've got some really cool stuff that you offer for free to anybody. They don't have to be your client. So I want to make sure we talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
You have an ebook. Tell us the name of your ebook.
So my ebook, sometimes the name changes, but essentially it's my guide to dog parenting.
Okay.
And it is geared towards the first few months of bringing a dog home, and it could be a dog of any age. And it doesn't talk about potty training, so it's, you look for that information elsewhere. If you're adopting, and even from a breeder, you'll get that information when people who work with puppies will give you that. But it's about house proofing so that your dog doesn't destroy things. It's about understanding the phases your dog will go into. That, it's stressful to change homes. So the emotional phases your dog will go through, so that you're not blindsided by what often happens as a dog is, it's a honeymoon period. The dog is so well behaved because he's nervous when he first comes to your house. And a couple of weeks in, all of a sudden he's chewing on the furniture and you're like, what happened? He was so good.
Yeah.
So it kind of covers that, how to house proof, some of the things that you're going to need, how to get started training. And it has throughout, because it's an ebook, it has links to a lot of other resources. So, you can, it'll say, here's some of the basic gear that you might want. Great. Here's a link to, this other website that has.
So it's really for the first few months. So that's
awesome. It's real, because then after that, you kind of know your dog. I wrote it so that people would stay out of overwhelm. That's because great. There is a moment where you get overwhelmed. Yeah. And, so many people feel like they made a mistake. Right. And that's a very vulnerable time for dogs, especially adopted dogs. They get rehomed a lot very early on. So that was my point. But there's benefit, the guide has benefit for sort of any dog anywhere, because there are training resources in it and general information about what to expect of dog behavior.
That's great. That's so important.
Yeah.
And then the other awesome offering, and I've also done this, is you have a free course called Preparing Your Dog for Your Return to Work, right? Yes. So, I think we all thought by now people would be going back to work, but at some point it's going to happen, right? Yeah. And I think it's a really good course, and you touch on a lot of really good, important things. Tell us just a quick little bit about that, and then I'm going to put all your resources up here so people can.
So I created the course some months ago when I thought, okay, people are going to start going back now, because a lot of people were adopting dogs, and there was some fear in the training community that people would go back, and then they might rehome the dog, or they might surrender the dog because, well, now the dog's an inconvenience. So I thought, well, I'm going to sort of support the dogs and the people so that this doesn't happen. One thing that is a real possibility to happen is separation anxiety.
Yeah.
If you got your dog during COVID and you work from home and you're with your dog 24/7, then all of a sudden you go back to your 9 to 5, your dog is going to have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So the course, and it's a couple of videos and a handbook, is how to prepare your dog for that eventuality. And you do that, in one sentence, by getting your dog used to being alone now. Right. And so the course will sort of walk you through the steps to how to do that.
It's so good. I did it because I wanted to know what it was.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And then there's like a troubleshooting. Okay, so you did this, and then this happened. Really good. Yeah, here's what you do.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything else like that out there. So, that's awesome, Ruth. Thank you so much for this. Do you have any last little tidbits before we wrap up? Anything else that you were hoping that we would cover that we didn't cover?
No, I would just, I want to say I love what you do. I love getting your newsletter and reading about your is antics an appropriate word? Your antics in the filmmaking world. I really, and I've loved this series, watching the other interviews of this series as well. So I'm super, super excited to be part of it. But I think, my advice to people in general about dogs and having a dog is, trust your instinct. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, because I was overwhelmed in the beginning. When someone told me to, jerk on his collar, I thought, okay, seems mean, but I'll do it. Or trust your instinct. If you get advice and you're like, I don't know, get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And that's you're a mom and a dad now to that dog, so you trust your gut. That's my
Awesome.
best advice for people.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Ruth. This has been amazing. I hope people go to your website and they sign up for your stuff. And you also have a blog that people
Yep,
can.
I have a blog. Same. You go to the website and
Right,
you'll see the
find
course.
everything.
You'll see a link for free
Right.
stuff. I have a library that has tons of free stuff that people can download. And you can get my newsletter and you can read my blog. And I try to
Great.
put a lot of
Because
resources out there.
not everybody will have access to you one-on-one. So, this is the second best that we can do for everybody
Right.
in the Cambridge area.
Yeah.
So. Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight. Before we go, I have just a few quick announcements. If you haven't already joined my Facebook group, The Science and Magic of the Human Animal Bond, please go ahead and do that. And you can also check out my website, animalmagicfilms.com, to join our community and learn about upcoming films. I got one coming out in a couple weeks, and any other news that's going on. And if you are watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. And lastly, if you have a human-animal bond story that you would like to share either on my website or through this interview series, feel free to email me at diane@animalmagicfilms.com. And I think that's all I have for announcements for today. Thanks again, Ruth. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everybody for spending time with us today. And we will be back here next Tuesday, November 17th, 2 o'clock Pacific time. And have a great week, everybody. Thanks again, Ruth.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.